What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. I'm your host, Warren, and Marvel's presentation / Disney's presentation at Cinemacon just went down, and we have a lot of info about what they showed the audiences during their presentation. Now, what's really interesting is they started the presentation off with a movie theater public service announcement type of new footage shown. And it's honestly pretty dang hilarious. This description is coming from Brandon Davis at comicbook.com. He says, Deadpool and Wolverine walking through a tunnel. Deadpool, so I heard Secret Wars is finally gonna introduce. Then a phone rings. Wolverine pushes Deadpool out of the frame and looks straight into the camera. Hey bub, you're in a movie theater. Turn off your fucking phone. He keeps cursing out the audience for their phone going off. Deadpool hops back into frame. Hearing him talk that way made his dick vibrate. He concludes, nice fourth wall break. Didn't think you had it in ya. I mean, that alone right there, this public service announcement that they're no doubt going to play in theaters before the previews start is enough to tell me that Deadpool 3 is gonna be epic. We already knew it was going to be epic, but this is the cherry on top. Hugh Jackman cussing out the audience, him breaking the fourth wall himself, Deadpool addressing that he broke the fourth wall, them hitting each other, cussing at each other, fighting. This is exactly what we wanted from Deadpool and Wolverine, and it's just a little tease, it's just a little PSA, but luckily for us, they did reveal new footage for Deadpool and Wolverine at Cinemacon, and although they did not release it to the public, we do have a description of what was shown. They played 9 minutes of footage of Deadpool 3 at Cinemacon, and Kevin Feige opened it by stating, it's effing awesome. The reason I can say it's effing awesome is because it's rated R. So they are not holding back at all. So the footage starts, and right away, Wade Wilson says cocaine is the one thing Feige said is off limits. Now, we heard they were going to take a lot of shots at Kevin Feige in Deadpool 3, and that appears to definitely be true. Now, there are a lot of different parts to this, but we'll first start off with a description from Discussing Film. And at the ending of their description, it describes an absolutely hilarious scene. Their description reads, the footage kicks off with Wade Wilson now trying to live a new life as a car salesman. He works with his former X-Force team member, Peter, who keeps the old Deadpool costume in his work locker in hopes that they can both go back to crime fighting one day. Peter takes Wade back to his apartment for a surprise party to celebrate his birthday, and all the X-Men characters from the previous films are there, including Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. It's established that Vanessa and Wade are no longer seeing each other, but are still friends. When he tries to blow out his birthday candles, the TVA comes to collect him. Wade wakes up in the TVA and meets Mr. Paradox, a high-ranking TVA operative who offers Wade the chance of a lifetime. Paradox tells Wade that he is destined for something special and that the sacred timeline of the multiverse might need some avenging. Wade gets a complete suit upgrade via the TVA, which includes adamantium swords. We talked about this the other day. The funniest joke of the footage is Wade running over to the camera, smashing the lens with his forehead, grabbing a mic out of the frame, and saying, F you, Fox, I'm going to Disneyland. When he rolls out with his new costume, Fergie's Glamorous plays, and Wade starts to show off in true Deadpool fashion. Eric Davis from Fandango, who was present, adds to the scene, stating that Deadpool says, suck it, Fox, I'm going to Disneyland, get effed. He also says that the footage ends with Wolverine and Deadpool driving, and Deadpool is roasting Wolverine for his suit, and he says, friends don't let friends dress like they play for the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Direct.com was also there, and they gave us some other descriptions about the trailer of other scenes that weren't mentioned, one involving Thor. They say, when Peter and Wade are talking about the good old days of being superheroes and Peter hopes to return one day, Wade says, I'm done. However, he is not happy with where he is, despite saying otherwise, but he says, aim for the middle and you'll never miss. Then Peter replies with, we're Deadpool. This might be a little play on We Are Groot, not sure about that. But the TVA shows up to the door and Wade thinks it's strippers, so he goes to the door. The TVA takes him, he meets Mr. Paradox, and Paradox says this, we're really a watchdog organization. We're in charge of defending the sacred timeline. You've been chosen for a higher purpose, one that could save the entire sacred timeline. Then Deadpool breaks the fourth wall and states, the sacred timeline, I assume I'm going to Marvel. Wade sees Captain America on the TVA monitors. He is amazed by this, and Paradox says that happens in the distant future as a clip of Thor crying over Deadpool's dead body is shown. At least they believe it's a dead body. The footage was not clear on that, just want to note that. But Thor is crying over the body, which probably means that he's dead. However, I think the TVA is probably tricking him, and this might be in an alternate timeline. Or heck, maybe Thor at one point in time in the sacred timeline knew a Deadpool and he died, but maybe that wasn't in the actual MCU, maybe in an alternate timeline. Because we definitely know that Deadpool is not dying in this movie. He's going to be in Secret Wars with Hugh Jackman. They were even joking about Secret Wars and all of the cameos that were going to happen in the beginning PSA clip for everybody to turn off their phones. But the rest of the footage that the direct described was pretty much the same as discussing film. So let's talk about some of these key, very important parts. The first one is that it seems that Wade was specifically chosen by the TVA to specifically save the sacred timeline. This is really interesting because it tells us that there still is a sacred timeline despite what we really saw at the end of Loki season 2. However, we can make sense of this. It would make sense that the sacred timeline would remain and simply have branch timelines coming out of it. But this does imply that perhaps if the sacred timeline gets destroyed or something happens to it, then perhaps the entire multiverse gets destroyed, which again would make sense if all of the other timelines were branch timelines out of the sacred timeline. So this is definitely why in the trailer, Deadpool says that he is Marvel Jesus. And of course, another main thing to note in here is that he does break the fourth wall when talking to Agent Paradox, when he says, the sacred timeline, I assume I'm going to Marvel. This is really interesting because it heavily implies that Deadpool, Wade, knows that the sacred timeline is the MCU, the main timeline that the audience, the fans of Marvel Studios have been following since the very first Iron Man film. And this honestly is one of the amazing things about Deadpool, just the ability to break the fourth wall is perfect. And Ryan Reynolds and the team at Marvel, they took full advantage of that with this. Now, the last thing to note about Wolverine is that, like we mentioned in a previous video, Deadpool does get the adamantium katanas, which apparently he says he wants to keep them before he gets into a car with Wolverine. So I'm assuming then the TVA probably says something like, well, then we better make him adamantium. Or maybe Deadpool says it. He's gonna need some adamantium katanas to take on Wolverine. And then the last thing I want to note, which is very, very interesting and a very interesting choice that they went with, is that Vanessa and Wade are broken up. It's very interesting, and I'm thinking maybe they broke up because he no longer wanted to be Deadpool. It seems like he's kind of changing as a man. He's not really the same person that he used to be. Sounds like he might be going through a midlife crisis, and that's maybe why they broke up. But I want to assume that by the end of this movie, he obviously gets reinvigorated, becomes Deadpool again, joins the main MCU, and maybe gets back together with Vanessa. Or maybe not. Maybe they just take Deadpool to the MCU and have him get with other people, like perhaps maybe Lady Death eventually. Deadpool and Death is a crazy story that I would love to see on the screen sometime. But that is the footage that was shown at Cinemacon. 9 minutes of Deadpool and Wolverine footage summarized. Thanks to all who were there and posted these online, like Brandon Davis of comicbook.com discussing film, The Direct, and Eric Davis of Fandango. Please let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. How excited are you for this? Are you more excited now? Are you the same? Are you still worried about it? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. And please don't forget to like the channel and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest MCU news. If you subscribe and leave a comment, you're entered in our giveaway for a chance to win an Xbox Series X or PS5. We pick one random comment at the end of each month. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.